are live. This is Pam and a half of Linda tonight. We're just having some technical difficulties. We're glad that you are here with us. Linda is here in spirit as well as in voice. So I'm sure she'll have lots of good things to say. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We just want to say that we wanted to get back to doing weekly lives. We're going to be here Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. Sometimes it'll be more formal, sometimes it won't. So bring any questions that you might have, type them in the chat, and we can address those. Tonight, we just completed a blog post on why won't my parents, listen to me, and that comes up. And Linda and I get that a lot. You notice some things going on in your parents' home. You see some red flags. You see things that maybe aren't quite right. And you say something to your parents and you get the proverbial, everything's fine, I don't need any help. So tonight we're just going to spend a few minutes reviewing the information that we shared in the blog post. And I will put the blog post in the chat so that you'll be able to see that. But Linda, while I do that, do you want to get us started and just share a little bit about what some of the dynamics are? Why are our parents hesitant to want to take our advice or listen to us?
Because we're the children. We are the children, and throughout the lifespan of living with our parents or growing up with our parents, some of us are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s, they are still our parents, and there is still the dynamic of a parent-child relationship. So the dynamic was that the parents would state something and the child would listen. And that would carry on into adulthood. And I can remember my mom saying, just because you're 30, I'm still your mother, and you still need to listen to what I have to say. So that dynamic doesn't change as they get older. And I think it actually becomes more challenging as our parents age, because we notice the decline and they are resistant to admit that they are declining, because they have been independent and they have been the parent. And how dare one of their children or all of their children state that they may need help, or that we now need to listen to what they have to say, because they are the wise ones. They are the elder. And that is how the dynamics have been. It was like that for them with their parents. And I'm sure they don't remember those same types of dynamics when their parents were aging and they were trying to assist them. So it just kind of comes full circle. And I think those are some of the challenges that we all face, is that we still have that parent-child dynamic relationship going on throughout our life. So it's hard for them to give up the reins and allow someone else to take charge.
And I think, that is so true. And we see it all the time. Excuse me. One of the other things is as we get older, we are very resistant to change. And so we're, if we notice things, or if we mention leaving the home, or we mention assisted living, or we mention this, or we mention them moving in with you, or us moving in with them. I mean, that's a huge change. And as we age, we become more set in our ways and much more resistant to change. So best, if you're going to talk about changes, try and do small changes. Start with something very small and ease into that. So, Linda, what are some of the things that we can do to try and make these conversations go better?
Well, maybe never have our parents age is one, but I think what helps us, or what would help the conversation, is that we have an open communication. First, we need to identify what those issues are and bring them up to our parents in a way that is not negative, derogatory, or disrespectful to them in any way. We need to prioritize what we've assessed as some of their needs. And instead of trying to break off a huge piece, such as getting them to move into an assisted living because you believe that's where they need to be because of the types of care they need, maybe what we start is with something small, as maybe we can get somebody here in the house to help make dinner for you, or maybe we can go and do grocery shopping with you or for you. Maybe we can get you to have your prescriptions delivered in punch packs so that you know what you're taking when you're taking it. Those very small, to them inconsequential parts of their day-to-day routine, taking some of those responsibilities away from them and taking them on yourself might help with that dynamically changing environment where you're seeing a lot of big issues occurring, but you're not going to be able to tackle all those big issues. You're going to need to prioritize them, but always be respectful. Communication is the key, and get your siblings involved. I can't tell you that you do not want to be the only one fighting this battle. You need to bring your siblings in and have a united front to be able to all be on the same page and bring those issues forward and address it with them. If you're seeing that your parents are in the same clothes for the last 3 days since the last time you were there, then basically what you want to do is make sure that your parents have that you identify this. Mom, I see that you've been in the same clothes for the last 3 days. So how do you address those things? How do you address what your parents attend? Mom, I see the beauty that's to have an issue.
And and Linda is spot on with that. And one of the things that we can also do is, we need to listen to their side of the story. We need to listen to their concerns. We need to let them have, still be able to have some kind of control and be able to give them some form of, decision making or some form of say so in what we're deciding, because that's, they're going to be very resistant to give up the control. So if we're still allowing them some choices and allowing them some input and asking them their opinion on how they see things, sometimes it's a bargaining. If there's falls, for instance, and they're not willing to change, they're not willing to get any assistance or get a physical therapy eval or something like that. I mean, you might have to say, well, you know what, if you fall one more time, will you agree that we must make a change? And, nobody wants to think about that next time, because that next time could be, horrible. I mean, they could break a hip, they could end up in a hospital, a nursing home. But sometimes we just have to try and meet them where they're at and come up with some way to at least move the needle a little bit.
And I agree with you, Pam. I think meeting them where they're at is kind of a mantra that we have always utilized when we've done home health and hospice. That is one of the key things in order to get buy-in for making good, healthy decisions, is getting their input and, meeting them where they're at and taking what they say to heart and helping them make those decisions and providing recommendations for them in a very positive way and not disrespectful or being defensive or challenging. And it's not about us. And I think that's one thing we always have to remember. And that's why meeting them where they're at is so important, because otherwise sometimes that agenda becomes about us and not necessarily about what their needs are at that point in time.
Excellent point. And one of the other things, that if you have, some families, depending on your ethnicity and how you're raised and how your parents are, I mean, some families are more volatile than others. Some conversations are, louder in some families than they are in other families. And if you find it difficult to try and keep the emotions in check, during these conversations, because once the arguing starts and that just deteriorates so quickly, you're never going to make any progress, because people, both sides are just going to dig in more and more and are going to get stubborn and not budge. So maybe you need to write a letter. Maybe you need to write a letter sharing their concerns and let them process that and read that, on their own, without any interference and without anybody's, input and let them just digest some of the things that you're saying. And oftentimes in this type of situation, if they read that and process that, maybe some of these changes can actually become what would seem their own idea and have their buy-in, because if they're suggesting it, we're going to have much more success in them following through than if they're just reacting to us telling them what to do.
Yeah, that's true. And I think sometimes having maybe an external person come in and talk with them about the things that you've identified, because sometimes things are they listen more, or they become more set when they come from an external professional or an external source versus their children, because to them their children are their children, but yet somebody else, another professional or a social worker or a nurse advocate, but somebody else having that information coming from somebody else, it might actually sink in or set in. Because I can tell you from my parental units, my mother will listen to the doctors before she'll listen to her daughters, who are healthcare professionals. So I think sometimes it's the generation. Sometimes it's not that my mom doesn't trust me or that, but I'm not the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that doctor. So, or my sister's not that doctor. So I think it's hard for them because of the era they came from. The doctor's word was gospel. There was no challenging it or asking for other opinions. The doctor's word was gold.
And that's very, very true. And even across the board, not even with our parents. I mean, even you look at your spousal relationship, you look at your work relationship, you look at other relationships, and I don't know why we're wired that way, but sometimes we're more willing to listen to some third party stranger, someone that we don't know very well. And all of a sudden, they could say the same thing. We're like, oh gosh, so-and-so said this. Well, that must be true, when we've been telling them the same thing over and over. So I don't know why we're wired that way. But so I agree with Linda 100%. Sometimes that third party coming in, and like Linda said, it's a great time for a nurse advocate to get involved with the family. And as advocates, we do a lot of mediation. We try and bring both sides together and in a very gentle way, so that we can come to some kind of the family can come to some kind of agreements and decisions. But just having someone there to make sure that both sides are being heard is one of the things that we can do to help.
Yeah, and I think it takes the pressure off of the family to be those caregivers and those advocates, and feeling like they're not making the right decisions in regards to their parents. So I think it takes a lot of stress off of the siblings or the primary caregiver, because they now can be that daughter, that son, that spouse, because the pressures of making those decisions is kind of being assisted. Not that nurse advocates make any decisions, because we don't make decisions for you, but we provide you the information, the tools, and the resources so that you make informed decisions. So we kind of guide you and support you with the decisions you make. And sometimes families hearing this from us versus you as that child can make all the difference in the world. Because I know my mom, it's the doctor. Doesn't matter. It's the doctor.
And I had a example with a client of ours, and our course is closed right now, but it'll be open this spring. But in our course about bringing siblings together to care for your aging parent, we talk about the sibling dynamics. We talk about their zones of geniuses, and you may need to leverage. You may need to leverage one of your siblings or an aunt or an uncle, one of their brothers or sisters or something that might have, the relationship with them that they might listen to. And people can't take that personally, but they just may, listen to someone else more than others. And this example that I had, it was so frustrating to the daughters, because there was 2 daughters and 2 sons, and the 2 daughters, they were doing, I mean, they were doing the legwork. They were doing the personal cares. They were doing the shopping, the housekeeping. They were doing all the physical cares. And both the sons were out of town, but the sons could walk on water. And the mom, she would not listen to her daughters no matter what. And she would talk terribly to those girls, and the boys, oh, they could sweet talk her to death. And the daughters were so frustrated because they were doing all the work. So sometimes you just got to have that heart to heart with your siblings and put your differences behind, and just say, okay, what's in the best interest of mom or dad or both, and how can we make this work?
I agree. Because it is. And those family dynamics, a lot of times they've been set for over many years. And as our parents age, a lot of times they're not going to change the roles that they have placed their children in as their children have grown up. Even though the children, their roles and responsibilities have changed, and who they are has changed as their life experiences and education has all changed. But in our parents' mind, a lot of times we are that same little, 12-year-old who always got into trouble or who just didn't do what they were supposed to do. So in their mind, they're not going to listen to us, because in their mind, we're still that 12-year-old that,
Yeah.
you know, that climbed trees and caused trouble and was the tomboy. And how would we know what to do?
Yes. And
Those types of things.
yes, who are we to say that they can't be independent anymore?
Exactly.
They changed our diapers and they wiped our noses, and who
Yes.
are we? Yes,
Right.
absolutely. In wrapping up, my closing thing would say is, if you're dealing with some situations that could be dangerous, such as driving, and they absolutely won't willingly do that. Again, sometimes you have to rely on your third party or rely on your provider. Their doctor can actually fill out a form and have their driver's license revoked. And that's not something that we like to do, but like I said, if you find yourself in a dangerous situation, or they have dementia and they're insisting on driving and they're getting lost, they're ending up in another town, or you get a phone call because they can't find their way home. I mean, something needs to be done. And unfortunately, sometimes drastic things need to be done. But just know, and that's another great reason to be connected with an advocate, because we can help you with those kind of resources, and what your options are, and help and educate you so that you can make the right decision for your family.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because what it's all about is, at the end of the day, is we all want to make sure that our parents get the care that they need so that they can be safe in the environment that they want to be in, with their input, and feel comfortable with the decisions that they're made. And, that's what we want at the end of the day. So we can help get you there. Please give us a call. Please let us know how we can help you. We're a phone call away. So call us, talk to us. We're here to help.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and just drop our website in the chat, and you can reach out to us, and our phone number. Everything is right on the website, so feel free to reach out and ask us any questions that you might have. And we'll be back next Wednesday. We're not sure what we're going to talk about yet, but we'll be back next Wednesday, and feel free
Hopefully
to jump
you can
on.
see me.
Yes, that'll be our goal, so you can see Linda. And bring some questions. We'd love to be able to address some of your questions and help you out. So we will see you next week. All right, take care, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.